Behind the Mirror of Music with Dannii Cohen.
Hello and welcome to Behind the Mirror of Music. My name is Dannii Cohen. This week's guest is Andy Reiss. Andy Reiss is one of the founders of Beyond the Barricade, UK's longest running musical theatre concert tour, featuring principal performers from Les Misérables and other West End shows. And performed in Les Misérables in the original Manchester, Dublin, and Edinburgh production, and after a 2-year break from the show, he returned as the resident director for the first national tour. During his time on the show, he performed the roles of Jean Valjean, Enjolras, Marius, and many others. I hope you will enjoy the show. Congratulations on the 40 years of Les Misérables.
It's a wonderful achievement for such a fantastic show. Absolutely deserves everything that it's had over the last 40 years and more, with the novel, of course. Wow, I mean, it's an untouchable musical, a beautiful musical, and very proud to have been a small cog in the wheel, as they say.
How did you first hear of the show?
I was a massive fan, so I'm going back really to the early days of when Les Miserables first opened. So I was a young thing that liked to do a little bit of singing in the amateur operatic world and the drama societies, and I somebody told me about it, and I thought I need to go down to London to see it. And I went down and I was absolutely blown away. I think at the time, I think I was actually performing in Carousel, the in just a local production. I was rehearsing it actually, and you had to write little notes to go on the program, in the program. And I remember writing down, what, they said, what do you want to achieve, and I said, to be a barrel on the barricade. It would be amazing if I could just like sit on it and watch everybody performing. And then who knows, all those years later, so it's crazy. So yeah, I was a big fan, massive fan in the early days. I mean, I missed Colin Wilkinson, sadly. I mean, I did catch him second time around when he came back in to do the show later on. But on that first production, he'd actually left when I went to see it, and a wonderful guy called Dave Willits was playing Valjean at the time, and Dave was a phenomenal Valjean.
How did you become part of the show?
Um, it was a crazy thing. So I'd got a job, I'd been to uni, I'd got a career all mapped out for me. That was my chosen path, and just doing singing on the side and as a hobby. And somebody said to me, one of the girls that was singing in the show said to me, I'm going to I'm going down to London. There's an open audition for Les Miserables. I thought, I didn't even know what an open audition was, but I thought, well, okay. So I actually took the day off work. I didn't actually. I took the morning off work because I thought I'd just go down, sing a bit, and come back and get the train back up to the Midlands where I live in Staffordshire. And so I went down to audition, and I had no idea. I mean, there were like hundreds and hundreds of people there. So I had to queue up and go in. And I did my little bit. I had to phone in work and say I'm not going to be back today. So I skipped the whole day at work. And that was it. I didn't expect to hear a thing. And it was just really wonderful to go down. I can't even remember where it was. It was some rehearsal studio in London. And I went down and sang whatever I sang. Actually, I did. 'Cause I was doing Carousel. So I sang a little bit of the Billy Bigelow's soliloquy from Carousel. And that was it. I went home quite happy. And, I don't know, a few weeks later, I got a letter, and back then, of course, it was a landline phone call. Um, can you come back down to London? And goodness me, okay, so another day off down to go to London. I walked in, and this is the first time I'd ever met Ken Caswell, this fantastic director, and in the original company of Les Mis, playing the bishop, of course. And he said to me, "Can you do that soliloquy again?" So I sang it, and I went, "Great, see you, bye," and that was it. And I had to go down another two times, and then we were breaking up for Christmas at work, and I got a phone call. "We want you to start at the end of January to rehearse for the Manchester production of Les Mis." And it was like, "Well, I can't do that. I'm just a normal guy with a normal job," and that was it. I never looked back. I handed my notice in and went down to London. Um, and I thought I'd be there for a year maybe. Um, that was a long time ago now. So,
You
and that
played.
was it. Yeah. So no training, no formal training, no college, no singing lessons, no nothing, nothing.
I think you played various roles in different productions over the years. Which roles did you play?
Yeah. Well, originally in that Manchester production, I was cast as the swing. I was a swing, which for those, I presume a lot of people know, but some people
Yes.
might not know. Basically, a swing covers all of the roles in the show. So if somebody steps up to play Valjean, let's say that they're playing another part, normally the bishop or something like that. So somebody would go and play the bishop, and then I'd have to slot into one of the student roles. So you had to learn the whole show. So it was a wonderful experience to have to do that. So I did that for the first 6 months or so at Manchester. Then I ended up um, going to play the factory foreman and come fair. Um, and then over the period of time with my history of the show, pretty much been on for all of the parts. The crazy, crazy times when I went to Edinburgh and Dublin with it, and then went back on the tour with it. So covering Enjolras and Jean Valjean. So I got to play all of those parts, and for a lad that just wanted to be a barrel, that was fine.
Did each part give you a different outlook of the story?
Yeah, very much so. Because I was so invested, the part of me was so invested in learning how it all worked, and I was always very keen on that. I was always keen to kind of look at the production value, how Ken Caswell. We were very lucky in those early days as well in Manchester to have John Caird come over for a few weeks, and of course John Caird was in one of the original directors of the production. They just installed a brand new version, if you like, a brand new staging of the show in New York, and we were the first show to have all of those new little bits put in way before London did actually. And I was always really interested to see how the rehearsal process worked. And because I was a swing as well in those early days, looking and seeing how the different characters worked within the show. And so it was really interesting for me to be able to dip into roles such as the factory foreman, playing all of the different students, and then get having the complete opposition, if you like, of playing a role like Jean Valjean as opposed to Enjolras. Which is very dynamic, where and less vocally controlled, if you like, to a degree, from playing the Valjean role. So it was. I was always interested in that from a very early time. Um, Being able to perform on stage, I was always looking at other things, which later, of course, led on to the fact that I ended up going in as resident director, which is completely different to being in it.
What is it like playing Valjean for you? How do you see him?
Um, it was an experience. I mean, I will never forget. It was. I mean, it was the first. I mean, I was up in Edinburgh at the Playhouse, the massive, massive Playhouse, and I got the call. You're on. So that was kind of fear, excitement, and looking at such a historical role, not just in terms of the part itself in this, in those early days, it was still developing into what people now quite rightly see as one of the greatest musicals ever written, and it's still going now. So even those early days of performing that, there's still a weight to deliver it properly. You've got the history of the novel, the history of the musical, and so to have the opportunity, anybody, there's like thousands and thousands and thousands of people now that have played that role, but back then,
Yes.
when we first did, it was new. It was still in those early years of development. The show had barely been open, 10 years or so. So it was really early times for the development of Les Mis as we know it now. And so, but the weight was still felt to carry such a brilliant piece of work. And so every time you went on, even if you were going on as a student, not even when, because that was just as important, all of those little jigsaw pieces that go to develop the whole of the piece, so that when all of that company walk down at the end of the show, will you join in our crusade? Who will be strong and stand with me? All of that, it builds up to that moment. So every single person, whether you're playing Combeferre or whether, just as I did have the opportunity to play Valjean in Edinburgh, it as a cover, it was just, the weight was great, but also the excitement and the rejoicing of being able to do it was something else. As I say, from a guy that hadn't gone into his adult life wanting to be a performer, but always dreaming about it, it was very special.
When you became a director, is there something that you added or changed in your work in the show?
Um, Not really. No, there's a very fine line with regards to what you can do. The show is basically set, and so the from beginning to end, it has to follow the same curve. It has to have the same emotional content. It has to have the same kind of feel and look about it. Obviously, over the years, the staging has been changed slightly, with regards to the Barricade, the Revolve, the everything has kind of altered. But going back to that first incarnation, with the barricades coming on and folding in and then turning, the job of the resident director wasn't just to make sure the actors were coming on, because things move over time. You're doing 8 shows a week, you're performing, and within a few months things change, things just slightly alter, and sometimes they alter for the better, so you can go, actually, that's not too bad there, it's not impacting the story, it's not impacting that actor there, so what we can do is nuance that into the piece itself and make it all work. But it's a very fine line, so that you don't have to, you can't go out there and destroy the concept of the original direction, and the original staging. So it's a twofold thing of making sure that the actors feel comfortable, that they can expand within their own performances to achieve a role, and also it's important to make sure that they don't expand it too far, and also that the staging works. The revolve cues, the music, the barricades coming on. Everything can alter, and so it's very much a matter of just making sure that you're tweaking it enough to keep it absolutely where it should be.
What are some of your favorite stage memories from the show?
Um, from particularly with Les Mis, I think that first. Well, there was. I'm sure if you spoke to anybody from that was in that first Manchester production, one of the most vivid memories was of the opening night, and one of the other guys may have told you that you rehearse and you rehearse and you rehearse, and this was the first time that Les Mis had been taken out of the West End. We're going into Manchester. We're going to put the show into Manchester for a year at least, and it's got to be good. It's got to be absolutely perfect. You're building up to that opening night, and on the opening night, the Act One was brilliant, and then what happens in the interval is that the actual barricades had to come. The revolve turns with the barricades on, so they're in the right place to come on for the actual barricade, because they used for Paris in the original production in their upright positions. So they have to turn the revolve, bring them on, and then turn around. So that's all fine. It's happened loads of times. We've teched the show, we've teched it, and it's absolutely brilliant. And what happens, of course, is that just as it was the stage right truck was going off the stage, it just stops. And then it spills hydraulic oil all over the stage. They're trying, and we're talking about, I maybe used to know how many tons of weight is in that truck, but there was no way that was moving. It was impossible to move, and so our opening night never happened. So that's a memory of the show, which is at the time it was like, oh, you just could not believe that this was the first time Les Mis had been out of the provinces, going up there, and you built it up, and then suddenly we were all in the party by, I think it was 9 o'clock. We were over at the hotel having the opening night party, having only done half a show. So that was a very vivid memory. I think the other one as well, when those early days of watching it when I was kind of resident director for it, and seeing these wonderful performers performing who come into the show that I'd seen 2 or 3 years earlier in watching it in the West End. I've been down at the Palace Theatre, I'm watching it, and appreciating their abilities even more. They're just phenomenal performers that they're in every show. That this is, it's a hard profession. It's a very difficult profession, and so it's not an easy profession where your standards can never slip. You've got to be on the ball every single night, and to watch those actors up close and to see their dedication to their craft was just phenomenal. So for me to do that every night, it wasn't so much one little moment. I think the pride of seeing somebody deliver a wonderful performance is not just for one performance. It's more to me that they can do it night after night after night. So I was I loved watching that. I think watching it in the Point in Dublin, it was massive. It was just where it should be. A big, wonderful production of Les Mis. That was special. And then going back to see it years later, when I've kind of drifted into another life of doing concerts, and then revisiting friends and who are still brilliant and still performing, and lifelong friends you make in that show. And I'm working with people right now doing the UK tour with my own show that I was in Les Mis with in Manchester. David Fawcett, we saw Fiona Sinnott a few way back, who did the Dublin run with us. Just phenomenal people who are still there, still working hard.
How did Beyond the Barricade came about for you?
It was from Les Mis. I'd gone down to London. I'd some time. The years blur, but I had time off from when we finished the Dublin tour. So we went to Manchester, then Dublin, up to Edinburgh, and then time off from the show. And my friend David Fawcett, he'd actually not done the Dublin and Edinburgh bit. He'd gone straight down to London. So I was going to have some time off, and then I got a phone call to say, can you come down to London for a few months? We could do with you down there. We've got some cash changes, and we're not ready for those to happen yet. Can you come down? So I went down to the Palace Theatre production. Again, meeting a whole basically different set of people as well. Some people have been on the tour, but these wonderful cast members from the 90s down there. David's there, so we got talking about doing a charity concert. We did a load of work for Mencap in those early days, and we had just 4 singers from Les Mis going out with a piano and a drummer and just singing songs. And then we got asked to do it again, and then again, and then we got chatting and thought, we may as well do this. We might as well put a few shows on a Sunday night and do a concert or two. And it started off as a very slow burn, 1 or 2 concerts every few months. I'd gone off to do, I was doing Evita, I think. Yeah, I was doing Evita. And then all of these things were kept coming in about more, the Les Mis wouldn't go away. It was still there. And we ended up calling the show Beyond the Barricade because of those, the singers. Back in the day there, we had Rebecca Thornhill, who was a wonderful Cosette. We had Rebecca Veer, who was again a wonderful Cosette, and Gemma Sandy, who was a fantastic Eponine. So we had all these people that we'd worked with over the years. So it was like a little Les Mis reunion, and it's just carried on and on and on and on. It's just we still do it. We still every year we go, I wonder if this is going to be the last year, but no, we're still at it. So but it all comes out of that wonderful experience, 40 odd years ago when Les Mis was kind of born. And as we know it, of course, it was written a little bit before that by Bublé and Schönberg, with Cameron Mackintosh having the brilliant idea. Yes, let's do an English language version of it, and let's take it 1980, I think it was. Yeah, let's get this and rewrite the whole thing and put it on. Let's put it on at the Barbican. Then that awful period of time where nobody everybody in the press was saying, don't go and see it, it's rubbish. And then, of course, the public didn't take any notice of that, did they? Thank goodness, because we wouldn't be here now talking about it. And the public said, no, we want to go. We're going to go and see it. Fantastic. What a story. What a story Les Mis has had. It's all ready to be consigned to the annals of history of musical theatre, shows that have only run for about 6 months. Then it transfers to the Palace Theatre from the Barbican, and then at the time as well, I'm jumping stories all over the place here. You just reduced all the years. You reduced all the years to this beautiful time that we've got talking about the show. At the time, the Palace Theatre was actually covered in scaffolding, and it was Lloyd Webber, of course, that had his offices there for the Really Useful group, with putting Phantom on just down the road. And the idea, of course, was, I think the story goes that Lloyd Webber really wanted to do the Palace Theatre up to open Phantom of the Opera there, and gave an agreement to Mackintosh to put in Les Mis. And I think there was something within the wording of the lease that said, right, as long as your box office is maintaining a certain income, and we can't boot you out, kind of thing. This is not legal jargon, by the way. Nobody said that, but the idea of it was that Les Mis wasn't supposed to be there for that long, and Phantom of the Opera was supposed to move in there and open. But of course, the success of Les Mis meant no, it wasn't going anywhere. So the Phantom of the Opera had to move down the road, and now, of course, we've got that face-off between the two shows. Who's going to blink first? Because as soon as the Les Mis goes, Phantom will do a year and a bit and become the longest running musical in the West End. So who knows what's going to happen? But it's still here. I still get a buzz. I hope that you can tell. I still get a buzz from talking about it. It's been part of my life for as many years as I've been singing, really. So no complaints from me that it's doing it, and I hope it can do another 40.
What do you think makes the musical so enduring to the public?
I think it's the story. To take, I mean, if we look at the facts of Victor Hugo writing a novel um, about an insurrection in Paris by students, and that awful black mark of that day where a lot of those young men were killed by the French guards, and those small pockets of the barricades built around to blockade around General Lamarck's funeral. It's not a story that we should be interested in. It really isn't. But Bubel and Schomburg and Kretzmer and the way that Cameron McIntosh moved all of that story and wove all of those themes, and using the fantastic characters of Jean Valjean and Javert, and intertwining all those stories within the story of that time, 1815s through the 1820s and 1832s, maneuvering the story through that time made the characters and the storyline more focused and more important. So without losing the value of Victor Hugo's novel, they combined it into something that was absolute stardust. It was wonderful. And so when people went to see it, it wasn't so much that they were going to see a story about a period of time in French history. They were going to see something that actually they could relate to. It was a man fighting for something. It was students on a barricade fighting for a cause, and goodness knows how many causes we've seen over the world in the world recently where people are having to fight for something. So everything within Les Mis was always something that the audience could sit there and appreciate it over and above the period of time that Les Mis was set in, and the story and the impact it's had. Well, it's obvious, isn't it? We're 40 years, and people go and see it time and time and time again.
Do you have a message for Les Misérables fans?
Oh, my part in this history of the show is as I said at the start, it's a tiny cog. But it was and still remains the most enjoyable part of my career so far in this crazy business. And I think for every single person that's been to see the show, whether you've seen it once or whether you've been to see it 50, 100 times, you've been there and you've kept the show running. So for every person that's ever spent £1, £1 on Les Mis, and people have spent a fortune going to see it. Every actor, the directors, the backstage crew, the dressers, the designers, the set designers, the wig designers, you kept all those people in work over the years for 40 odd years, and so my thanks for the massive fan base of Les Mis for making it the greatest musical.
Thank you so much for the interview.
Thank you so much, Dannii. It's been a delight. Thank you.
It was lovely talking to you, and well, I hope that we can talk again in the future when there's more time to look at your whole career.
Absolutely, anytime. What you're doing is wonderful, and congratulations on what you're doing.
Thank you so much.
Bye for now, Dannii. I hope to see you and
Bye.
speak to you real soon.
Speak soon. Bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Behind the Mirror of Music with Dannii Cohen.